Welcome back to the show. It's Sunday, June 19th, 2011. This is Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye, from federaljack.com. I'm joined by Susan Lindauer today. And before we went to break, Susan was explaining her background and what she's been through and her involvement with the Iraq, pre-Iraq war, or I should say pre-Second Gulf War. And Susan, what exactly did Iraq give to the United States? Through you, what information and stuff? What was passed on to the U.S. way before the war and the invasion?
Well, I'll tell you something. From the very first day, while the votes were being counted in Florida, it went back that far. We didn't even know whether George Bush was going to be president or whether it would be Al Gore. And I was already sitting down for meetings approved by the CIA, known entirely to my CIA handler and my defense intelligence handler. And we were talking with the ambassador of Iraq, Dr. Saeed Hassan, about resuming the weapons inspections. And it very quickly became a bigger conversation. And it was very positive. And I want to say, as I start explaining this, that this really shows that dialogue can always achieve results. And it's a hopeful thing to use diplomacy, because you may start off like we did, trying to achieve one goal, which was the weapons inspections, and in fact we got much more than that. And the more that the Iraqis indicated that they would give, the more the CIA demanded, and it was just pretty much every demand that we made from the CIA that the Iraqis agreed to. And so Hello?
Susan, can you hear me?
Wow! Listen, yes, I can. Are we on?
That was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting. You got cut off first, then I got cut off, and then I came back, and I had to call you twice before, and I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me. Talk about some interesting technical difficulties just as you start to get into the details.
Yes, and I'll tell you something. I'm not on a cordless phone. I've got a plug-in phone, and every time we get into this, funny things start to happen, and it's happened on numerous interviews. And I apologize to all of your.
It's not your fault. You know what? When they do retarded things like this, it's childish, and it just backs up everything and gives you more validity because now they're showing their hand. So
exactly.
Don't let it bother you, Susan. Don't worry about it. Go right ahead and pick up where you got cut off. You were talking about the information that you had brought back from Iraq and everything.
Absolutely. The Iraqis were offering major comprehensive framework that had been developed by the CIA with CIA oversight and instruction. I gotta underscore this point. This was what the CIA was demanding, and it did exceed the UN mandate by a mile. But it was so good, and everything that we did was good for America. And here's what it included. Weapons inspections with no conditions. Cooperation with anti-terrorism that included getting the FBI an invitation to send a task force into Baghdad with authorization to conduct terrorism investigations, interview witnesses, gather evidence, and make arrests on Iraqi soil. This was a huge, big deal. Interestingly enough, this was agreed to 6 months before 9/11. And we want to come back to 9/11 in a few minutes, but I want you to know that even before 9/11 happened, the whole time that some of you know that the United States was threatening Iraq with war from about April and May of 2001 onwards if 9/11 happened. It's very important to know that while the United States issued those threats, Iraq came back to us and said, well, okay, send the FBI into Baghdad. So we're making threats against Iraq through the back channel, saying that if 9/11 happens, there could be a war with Iraq, and Iraq's response is, we'll send the FBI in and you can do an investigation right now. You can send them in immediately. After 9/11, Iraq offered financial documents, financial and banking transaction records from al-Qaeda figures in the early years. It appeared that this was tied to Ramzi Youssef, who was the mastermind of the 1993 World Trade Center attack. Okay?
And he's still in jail today for that.
Yes, he is. And what he had done was it's very important to know, he had fled to the Philippines, of all places. And in the Philippines, Terry Nichols from the Oklahoma City bombing would make trips from his home to the same Islamic University campus where Ramzi Youssef was hiding out. And Filipino informants have said that they observed Ramzi Youssef meeting with a Westerner, an American, who identified himself as a Kansas farmer, which Terry Nichols was, who looked very much like Terry Nichols. And so we believe that there are in fact IDs, visual IDs of these two men together in the several-month period before the Oklahoma City bombing. Now, the Iraqis said that they could prove that there was a financial and technical link between Al-Qaeda and the first attack on the World Trade Center in 1993 and the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. And the link was Ramzi Youssef. And according to the Iraqis, they were bragging that this would be the most valuable cache of documents, and that it would be a treasure trove for the United States, and that we would be able to shut down a huge part, a huge part, yes, a significant part of the financial pipeline feeding Al-Qaeda. Now, here was a way to go about anti-terrorism that did not require deploying, 500,000. How many American soldiers went into Iraq and Afghanistan? We didn't have to spend billions and billions and trillions of dollars on a war effort that was going to create more terrorism.
And this was the Iraqi government working with us to try to help us, not actually funding Al-Qaeda and helping the 9/11 attacks, as Bush and Cheney would have had people believe. Go on, Susan.
Yeah. And the whole summer, April, May 2001 onwards, they're saying, well, send the FBI into Baghdad. You keep telling us you want this information. Come and get it. Send them in. If you think you're going to get more information, we invite you. We welcome you.
Susan, we got a break sneaking up on us. Guys, stay tuned. We'll be right